What's going on, people? This is Shok, and of course this is my E3 wrap-up video that I always do. If you've already caught all of my review videos for all the conferences, you would generally kind of know, where I kind of feel with all these conferences in E3 as a whole. But just kind of as a one-place destination to get my full thoughts on this year's E3, that's the type of role these videos kind of serve for you guys. So I didn't get to catch EA's play thing, but apparently it wasn't a traditional type of conference in the first place. But I'll basically be excluding EA from this because I did not catch EA's thing, nor have I really heard anything from EA anyway. So let me go ahead and get that out the gate. I don't really have anything to say about EA. I mean, let's be honest here. EA has been like straight Fs for years on end by now. At this point, there's nothing noteworthy there anyway. There's only so many times we can see Madden presented and FIFA and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, I think the biggest winners of this E3 were Square Enix, who I felt won this year's E3. Their presentation was the most impressive to me. Not that it was perfect, and all these scores are like, of course, relative towards each other. They're relative towards the other conferences and how they performed as well. But it's not that like Square Enix just did such like amazing job. Like it wasn't like a mind-blowing conference. The reason why I rate Square Enix so highly this year, and I gave them a B plus for those who weren't able to see my Square Enix video. Again, it's not necessarily because there's this massive announcement and that massive announcement or anything like that. There's actually like very few surprises, if any at all, for Squares, but they didn't really do anything bad either. You see what I'm saying? So they kind of have a high average simply because they didn't really have anything bad and they only had good. So there's less flaws there in their conference that would make me that would otherwise make me dock off points and maybe lower the grade. You know what I mean? So second place, the other winner for this year's E3 in my opinion was Microsoft. Microsoft, of course, they don't have exclusives, but that's not new news. It's Microsoft. We're used to that. They kind of seem like they're going the way of, eventually we're going to have Xbox games on PlayStation and, Nintendo platforms at this point, like most of them anyways. So that's nothing new, something we've come to expect, but, that, prevalent problem aside, it was pretty good. It felt a lot like last year's conference, which is definitely a good thing because their conference last year was also really good. They showed 60 games. I believe it was 14 world premieres, rapid fire pace, like I said in my Microsoft E3 review, and I never thought I'd say this. The thing I appreciate most about Microsoft is that, until Square, but like I said in that review, they seem like the only ones for like this year and last year who were like still focused on what E3 is about, right? They're still staying on the stage because they know gamers like that. Yeah, I guess it technically doesn't matter whether or not it's a stream presentation or on-stage presentation thing, but they understand that it's just the E3 thing to do. You know what I mean? And they know that gamers like that. That's what we grew up on. It's nostalgic for us, and they're respecting that. So I appreciate that Microsoft still comes on stage, and they've been very focused on the games, which is huge considering some of their past and previous E3s where it was TV, fantasy football, TV, streaming services, smart glass, TV, all those types of conferences and all the Connect crap. They've come a long way. So that's 2 years in a row where Microsoft's conferences have been game. You know what I mean? Yes, no exclusives, but that doesn't all of a sudden mean that all those games they show doesn't matter. The raw quantity of the games they show and the raw quantity of premieres they show are enough to compensate for the lack of actual exclusive titles and encouraging people to actually buy an Xbox. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate that I really appreciate that about Microsoft. 2 years in a row, they've came out. They're like, hey guys, this is E3. We're going to get on fucking stage. We're going to show games. Only problem is that was only halfway true because most of the games that they showed were CG trailers, which is Microsoft's biggest fucking problem right now. They always show these world premieres after world premieres after world premieres, even for their own games. They didn't show trailers. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Like, that's your games. Some of your games are launching soon. It's like, you're still not showing gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. But that's the one thing that was keeping them down. I actually would have given Microsoft's conference an A minus if the majority of the games they showed, they just actually had gameplay to show along with it. But their pacing was good number of games. So Microsoft is a close second place with a B. They're right behind Square Enix. Square Enix just had like I said, fewer flaws, fewer negatives, fewer problems, therefore a higher average. And then in third place, should I count Devolver Digital? I forgot about Devolver. I actually did check out their presentation. I'll give Devolver a B. Whatever. It was funny. So tied. But like in third place, as far as like the big, companies are concerned, I give it to Nintendo with the C. Announcing a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and Banjo being in Smash. Those two things right there at the very end really salvaged that conference from being kind of garbage, in my opinion. Like, all the way up until that point, that conference was like, it was a little shaky, especially like for me personally. But I'll give them a C because, I realize that I'm not a typical Nintendo fan. I'm not into a lot of the games other Nintendo fans are into. I'm not as easily pleased. I'm not so, open with just every single game Nintendo makes. Like, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that. I'm not that type of Nintendo fans, I like and want particular things from them, and other people aren't like that, and that's fine. That's fine. But they get a C because they show the most gameplay out of anybody, and that was one of the major problems plaguing this year's E3 was just the lack of gameplay. But Square and Nintendo saved us from that curse. It was looking pretty grim, but Square came with the gameplay with a really great showing of Final Fantasy VII, and I was not interested in that game at all, the remake, until that presentation, and now I'm sold. That's what gameplay does to you. And not that Nintendo doing gameplay is new. It's Nintendo. Nintendo has always been the number one person to show gameplay, but still going to give them props for continuing doing good in that regard. So Nintendo showed the most gameplay, so that definitely bumps up their average. Then announcing a Breath of the Wild sequel, that was great. No More Heroes 3 for me was one of my top two personal favorite announcements this E3. The other one being Phantasy Star Online 2 coming over to the West. I've been waiting for that for so fucking long. I played Phantasy Star Online back on the 360 days. That is so classic. I just get nostalgic just thinking about it. I love that game with a passion. I can't wait to play it. It's finally going to get localized over here. That's going to be dope. But the reason why Nintendo is just the C, and I even thought about giving it a C minus, but I guess it's a C because they basically had nothing new to show. You know what I mean? They had like nothing new to show. There was no new game announcements from them specifically. I'm talking about first party, except the Breath of the Wild sequel. Everything else they showed, we have already seen. A lot of them we've even gotten gameplay of. Hell, Daemon X Machina, we've already played that. You know what I mean? So they showed like Daemon X Machina, Astral Chain. I'm not saying showing those don't matter, but I'm just saying it's not the same. It's not the same. Excuse me. It's not as big or as important of showing like a new game and then you show gameplay if you're showing one that was already announced and shown and you're just showing some more. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? That means less to me. So yeah, they showed like Daemon X Machina, Astral Chain, Fire Emblem, Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they showed gameplay for all those things. The only new premieres from them was Animal Crossing, I believe. As far as their titles that are worth a damn, there might have been a couple of like small little fuck shit things that I missed, but yeah, there just really wasn't anything new from Nintendo. There was nothing exciting as far as new game announcements. I'm not talking about DLCs. The Smash characters count as, that's DLC. But as far as like new games, it was just Zelda. And like that was it. You know what I mean? Like that was it from Nintendo. Of course there was No More Heroes as well and Panzer Dragon or whatever, but like Panzer Dragon looked boring as hell. That shit looked hella fucking boring. But yeah, Nintendo got to see. Could have been a lot worse, and they've done worse in the past. And then in fourth place, we have Bethesda, which, if I remember correctly, I gave a D or D minus. I can't remember, but it was one of those. It was a D. It was a D. And they talked about a lot of their games without showing them, right? They would just have people keep talking and talking and talking about the game without actually showing the goddamn game. But then once they finally showed like Wolfenstein and Doom and a couple of other smaller things, and those presentations were like really fucking good. And honestly, Wolfenstein and the Doom Showcase really saved that game from, I mean, that conference from like being an utter disaster. No, I think I give them a D plus. Did I give them a D plus? I think I gave them a D plus. Go watch the video. Oh wait, I didn't upload my Bethesda review. This is why I can't remember, because I didn't upload the review afterwards. A D something. A D something is what they got. I think those two games definitely salvaged the conference. I'm surprised they decided to try to salvage Fallout 76. I would think that's a game they would kind of ignore and just kind of let it die and, you know, let people forget about it and then kind of move on a couple years later. Just kind of sweep it under the rug type deal, you know what I mean? But apparently trying to salvage it, Battle Royale mode and all that stuff, yeah. No Elder Scrolls 6. Lack of gameplay for a lot of the games they talked about or announced or whatever. Just kind of, like I said, kind of the story of this E3. Just a lack of gameplay outside of Square Enix and Nintendo. And then, of course, last place is Ubisoft. You know, cringy presentations, cringy presenters. A lot of the games they show just look, you know, more the same. CG trailers, nothing with gameplay, like the Rainbow Six zombie game. Concept sounds cool, but like, you know, they show nothing to show. And then the way they ended it was really abrupt. Like the way they ended it, I didn't even know it was ended, you know? Like 1 minute they're talking and then the next second they go outside to, you know, I forget that guy's name, that black guy who's like commentating this Rainbow Six match they're about to have between Lil Yachty and I forgot other dude who was there or whatever, right? Like that was that was just such a strange transition to me. But yeah, Ubisoft they did not just show anything that was just compelling to me like that. Like Watch Dogs 3 looks fine, but I don't know. Just kind of more the same. Ubisoft just kind of seems to be playing the safe game. You know what I mean? Nothing really out there, nothing innovative. Not saying that I need, you know, a company to show the super innovative shit in order to be a good conference. Square didn't show anything innovative, but I still gave their conference a great score. You know what I mean? And they didn't really have any surprises like that either. So that's not like a requirement to have a great conference, but I was just bored and underwhelmed the entire time. Of course, they spent a lot of time on games they shouldn't have, as usual, like Just Dance. They always make Just Dance a big deal. It's like, I get it, it's a huge seller, but that's not the type of game you have to focus on at E3, because that's mostly hardcore gamers watching that. So why do you keep spending these thousands of dollars to pay these dancers, and you got all these theatrics, right, and all that shit, and it's just kind of bad. It was just kind of bad. But yeah, guys, overall, I would say this E3 was a little underwhelming, but I wouldn't say it was like garbage. You know, we definitely had some good parts, and I guess 3 of the 5 that I watched did at least a watchable job. I don't think Bethesda and Ubisoft were watchable at all, but at least the 3 others were at least presentable, and they at least had like some shit. You know what I mean? So I'd give this E3 a C minus, I guess. Maybe a D plus, C minus, somewhere around there. We'll just give it a fucking 70. It was okay. I feel like we've had worse ones, you know what I mean? But there was some value to be had here. There's some pretty good announcements, and not to mention that Sony was gone too, so we might have missed out on a couple announcements. Not that they have any announcements to make, which is why they're gone. I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, you know, one of the big companies was gone, so that also limits the amount of content we've had for this E3 as a whole. Maybe the average under normal circumstances would have been higher if Sony had a couple games to show, but I'd probably give it like a C minus. Like I said, could have been worse, but I'm definitely a little bit underwhelmed. So those are my thoughts on E3, guys. Let me know what y'all think down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all later. Peace.